Hey there, welcome into another edition of the North Idaho Prepcast here on IdahoSports.com, episode 13 of this great season. Hayden Uhlenkott with you as always, and we're always brought and sponsored by Cornerstone Insurance, our great partner in North Idaho. As always, this stream is being, live and free on Facebook, YouTube, and our X account. Always tune in, like, follow, and subscribe, all of those great platforms. And without further ado, might as well bring on the co-host of the North Idaho Prepcast. How you doing, Scaggs? Another week, another day in.
Another week, another day in. Another long night last night doing Gem State game day. You know how that goes.
I do. I'm looking forward to it next week. Another long 2-hour night.
It should be getting shorter as we get fewer teams, but yeah, it was a
You
long
would think
show.
so. That's what I thought last night, though. I expected you guys to be out in an hour.
Well, I had to bail out for 4A because I had nothing to talk about. So
I should think about that next time.
yeah,
It's a good idea. No,
yeah.
fair enough. Well, on the docket, we have, volleyball wrapped up, cross country wrapped up, football is getting deeper into the playoffs. I think swimming, maybe if we get swimming results, we'll take a look at them in the next couple of weeks. But volleyball, cross country, finally in the books. And let's start with volleyball. In the 6A landscape, we got a nice bracket pulled up. Zoom in if you need to. Only the one team from Northern Idaho made it, and it was Coeur d'Alene. They were able to take down Rigby in their first match of the tournament on Thursday. Played really well. I was impressed with Coeur d'Alene versus Rigby. And then they ran into juggernauts. They played Skyview. Skyview, the eventual champion, was able to take them down and then ended up losing to Rocky Mountain, the 3 seed in 3. So kind of disappointing, I think, from Coeur d'Alene. I think Coeur d'Alene feels the exact same way, hoping for a better result. But nonetheless, 6A volleyball is the top of the echelon there in the state.
Yep.
In 5A got a little interesting. Lakeland, Moscow, like we talked about, that was an interesting matchup, having those two at the 3 and 6 spots. Moscow actually hung with Lakeland every single match, every single set, and it was just the fact that Lakeland could close it out and ended up winning. And then so they ended up playing Shelley, the number 2 seed, taking them down in 5. That was a crazy match for them. Ended up winning, and then they get the state champ or the pre-state championship game against Hillcrest, match 12, where they get swept. They have to go play Shelley again, and they get swept by Shelley, and it didn't end the result they were looking for. Ended up with a 3rd place trophy. But if I'm Lakeland, I'm pretty happy about the result that I got coming in as the 3. Not a ton of high expectations. I mean, even getting into this tournament was kind of a surprise. And so I think kudos to the Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, based on what the regular season kind of shook out like in the IEL, Lakeland didn't have the most impressive record. They obviously got a huge lift in their strength of schedule. Their record wasn't very impressive, but we knew that it was a good group. And to get the win, I think the first win over Shelley was huge for the group, obviously guaranteeing at least a top 3 trophy, getting that win and making it into the championship side of the bracket, and then getting swept by Hillcrest. Hillcrest is just a machine, man. I mean, obviously they got pushed by Middleton in their quarterfinal match, but after that, it was pretty much just flexing on everyone, and then dunked on Shelley in the championship match, winning 3-1. Lakeland coming on with 3rd place. I don't want to know if it exceeded expectations, but I think it at least met expectations for the season. And like, hey, we're one of the top 5A programs in the state, and we showed it. They did play very well. They played a tough lineup getting through the state tournament, and they ended up on the right-hand side of the bracket instead of going to that left-hand side on the losers bracket by winning that quarterfinal matchup with Shelley. So, Shelley obviously had to play from the back end, and they beat Middleton and swept them 3-0, and then ended up sweeping Lakeland 3-0. So an impressive effort from the Russets, give credit where credit's due. But to Lakeland ended up in the top 3. That's a big deal for that group, and some nice pieces coming back next year.
Absolutely. It's the team, that got 2nd place last year. So 3rd place, not too bad. Moscow, they were able to get a win against Twin Falls. They were able to sweep the Bruins there, and then ended up coming up short to a Middleton team. But
A really
Also,
good Middleton team as well.
yeah,
Like, I
and,
mean,
props to Moscow for getting in. They had to knock off number 1 Lewiston in the district tournament to even get to that spot. Moscow was the 4th team in the district this year. Obviously, it was fairly close, but, I mean, Moscow, I'd be pretty happy about where you're
yeah,
entering state tournament, I think.
I think it exceeded expectation for sure. And then getting the win in the play-in match too is just a huge lift for that group, and a real shot in the arm for confidence. I think that really set it up, and it showed the strength of the IEL to where the teams that necessarily weren't at the top, at the end of the regular season, still ended up in the top 6 in state. That's impressive. I mean, I don't care who you are. That's a really big deal. So just a nice season from both squads. Obviously, Lakeland getting the trophy is real good, but Moscow, Middleton's a tough group. That was a really tough team that they had to play in that loser out match 10. But yeah, I mean, just a great season from both squads.
Yeah. On the 4A front, these were the teams, that we weren't really sure if, Timberlake would make it in through the play. And they were able to beat McCall Donnelly, I think it was. Maybe I'm blanking on that. And so they had the first bid, and it was Bear Lake. And this was a weird bracket. Bear Lake ended up coming in second place, but losing to Fruitland in that semifinal match. Made their way around. Timberlake wasn't able to take down Bear Lake, and then also lost to Preston in 4. But, credit to Timberlake for hanging in there for 5 sets against a number 4 Preston team that is pretty solid. So I think for Timberlake, I think another, very happy about how far you did, how well you did in the state tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, seeding I think was a little jacked up in 4A. I don't know if the Max Preps got it necessarily correct with Fruitland. It seemed like District 3 got slided pretty hard with Coal Valley being the 3, Fruitland the 5. And it, obviously that shuffles everything around a little bit. You have teams that probably are a little bit better pushed to a lower seed line, and you kind of look at some of the results where Kimberly ends up, shuffled to the back end, losing the loser out match to the eventual runner up, and Bear Lake, who lost in the second round in the quarterfinals to the eventual state champ. Like, I mean, there's just a lot of mishmash moving around in that one. And Timberlake pushing Preston to 5 sets is a decent showing from a group that I don't think a lot of people looked at the Tigers going, oh yeah, that's a team that's going to place at state this year. And they made a respectable showing. I know they went 2 and out, but still, I mean, being able to push Preston, like we said, in that loser out match to 5 sets is a big deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at this bracket; it's funky all around. When was the last time you see Sugar Salem go 2 and out? Hardly ever. And then I look back at the beginning of the year with Brandon and Lindsay when they did the volleyball preview. I would be very shocked if Fruitland was at the top of their radars.
Yeah.
That would surprise me there. 3A Scaggs. Okay, let's start with Priest River. If you're Priest River, I think you are thrilled with how this state tournament went for you.
Beat Nampa Christian, who ended up, losing to Malad, who ended up being runner up. I mean, that's, getting a win in the first round against a perennial powerhouse in volleyball of Nampa Christian. That's a huge deal for that program. And I know that, they ran into Malad in that, next match 10 on the loser side of the bracket. And that was a buzzsaw match. I mean, that was a team, I think, once again, the seeding, I don't know if it necessarily was correct or not, but once you get to state, there's really no bad teams. Let's just be real about that one. But yeah, I mean, I still think it's a season that just you can hang your hat at the end of the day and say, like, man, we gave it heck, and let the chips fall where they may, but we gave everything we had, and the record showed. I mean, what would they have, like 3 losses on the entire year, 4 losses? So a phenomenal season from the Spartans.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of optimism heading into next year. It's just it's looking, all the way around in that sports landscape in Priest River is, football's on the come up, volleyball's on the come up. Like, they're moving in the right direction, and I'd be thrilled. So then there's Kellogg. Oh, Kellogg. You and me had such high expectations for the Wildcats heading into this tournament, and I was sitting there on Thursday night at around 10:30. Pacific, or I think it was mountain time, 10:30.
Yeah.
And I'm sweating bullets. I'm like, I don't know if Kellogg's going to get out of this first match. They were down 2-1. They were trailing 16-20 in that third set. Well, fourth set rather, in a position where it really didn't think they were going to come out and beat Firth. They ended up pulling it out, getting that win, and then they moved to the fifth and final set where they had an 11-3 lead. And I'm like, holy cow, Kellogg's turned it around. And Firth cut it to 13-12. And even at that point, I was like, holy cow, this is nerve-wracking if you're any sort of a Wildcat fan. And Kellogg got the win. And it was, probably 11:30-12 before they even got back to their hotel. Super late night. Got the match against Melba, came up short against a Melba team that lost to Ambrose and Malad. And then I think Kellogg just ran out of gas. They then faced Nampa Christian, a team that we talked about, played Priest River, and came up short. So tough draw, but when you start a state tournament so sloppy, really,
Yep.
it's tough to, put together multiple matches in a row and have a chance at winning.
And that's the thing where you talk about like the psychology of sport. And, one thing that I learned a long time ago is when you have a showing that necessarily doesn't match up with your expectation, or that it doesn't match your ability, you got to learn to flush it. And I don't know if they were ever able to really shake that Firth match. And, taking Melba and winning and losing in the 5 sets, I mean, the talent's there because it's showing within the match score. And then they go and lose to Nampa Christian the next match in the loser out to a team that was beat by your foe that you absolutely walloped on all season. That one's just kind of a head scratcher. I mean, I think Kellogg is a lot better than their finish. But, you get to state and it's just, there's so much at stake, and you start playing tight instead of playing to win. You play not to lose, and sometimes that's what just ends up clipping you. And that's unfortunate for that group because it was a very, very talented team and not the result that they wanted. I think, if you say like exceeded expectations, met expectations, or did not meet expectations, Priest River, I think, exceeded this year. Kellogg, I don't think, met their expectations. I think they were expecting to play in that, those penultimate matches like 13 and 14 at the end of the year, and they just didn't get it done at the state tournament, which is unfortunate because that's a really good team.
Yeah, I totally agree. We talked about it all year, just how talented that group is. So unfortunate as it is, but there's always next year. There's always the next season, and we shall see. All right, 2A, Butte County at the top. Butte County held strong and just coasted, really.
Man. Woof.
Just a buzzsaw. Troy at the bottom was the 2 seed, was able to take care of business against a Wilder team. One of those sets went, Troy won 25-3. Absolutely insane. Then they were able to take care of business against a Valley team and ended up losing to Butte County, and then also beat Oakley before losing to Butte County twice on the same day. So tough, match for Troy against a Butte County team that's now won back-to-back state championships. I think if you're Troy, you're still happy about where you're at. I think you're always wanting to shoot for that state title, and that's kind of the, that's just the goal of Troy is, you're shooting to be in that final match on Saturday playing volleyball in the 2A ranks. And I think they at least accomplished that. And then on the other side, Wallace came up short against Valley and then was able to take care of business against a Wilder team and then ended up losing to Oakley. This Oakley team was the team that beat Kamei in 5 sets. Now the Cubs had a real shot to beat Oakley. They were up 2-1. Yep. And it was, again, another game where I was watching it and I felt like I was sweating bullets. They had the lead, they had control, and Oakley just turned it into another gear. Kamei rather, just made too many mistakes that I think they're looking back at wishing that they could have played differently.
Because realistically, if you think about this, if Kamei could have gotten that Oakley game, you realistically could have seen Kamei and Troy playing for 2 and 3. And
you're totally right.
And that's the hard part, I think, for that Kamei group is that, you look at what was in front of you and things that you may have let one go. And they absolutely dismantled Coeur d'Alene Charter. And then they had to play a Valley team that, it's 3-1. I mean, you come off of a win, you're on the loser side. It's really hard. I don't want to say it's hard to get motivated, but, there's some demoralization a little bit that, you're still focusing on that first loss, which was unfortunate. But, the coulda, woulda, shouldas, I think, kind of set in there for a team that I think is a better team than what they ended up finishing at state. But hats off to the teams that got there. I mean, Oakley did what they needed to do. They got the win against Wallace, and then they took care of business against Valley, and Troy ended up beating them in 5 sets. Troy had to sweat that one out too. So it's you get to state, you're going to face good teams, and so the good teams, it's the separating line that maybe necessarily isn't talent. It's the mental aspect and what separates you from your opponent upstairs in the brain, and really that's where it comes down to, is like thinking like a champion. And some teams are a lot better at it than others, and being able to kind of get rid of those whoopses and move on. And sometimes if you dwell on it, you just struggle. And I think that's what happened at state for that group, because that's a good team. That really is.
Well, that's the beauty of volleyball, is you have the opportunity. If you lose the first match, you have an opportunity to come around and win. Like,
Yeah.
that's what's crazy about it, is there's a lot of redemption, and that's what makes, volleyball, like so many other sports, just such a mental game. So nonetheless, Troy comes home with hardware. They get another red trophy. I'm sure they're thrilled with that one. And they'll look forward to another great year next year.
I mean, what's it like to have the expectations that, like, if you didn't meet your expectation and you ended up state runner up, it's kind of disappointing. Like, that's got to be that's something that I didn't really experience in high school myself in athletics. But
Scaggs, I can tell you one team that I know that experiences those exact expectations, and that happens to be the Prairie Girls basketball program.
Yep.
That's another story, and maybe we'll talk about that in a month. But that's the only other school in Northern Idaho that I've seen that has those expectations. That, like, if you get a red trophy, it is a flat out disappointment.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. But I mean, I wouldn't let it take away from the type of year that you had either. So
no, I agree. All right, 1A, Coeur d'Alene. Oh man, met a tough Horseshoe Bend team in Coeur d'Alene on Thursday, and Horseshoe's good. Clearly, they didn't get challenged very often. They did at the end against Rockland, but Horseshoe ended up reigning supreme. Coeur d'Alene then ended up losing in 3 to Mackey as well, but it's their second year IHSA eligible. I mean, props to Coeur d'Alene for being in that spot. Genesee, on the other hand, take care of business against the Carey team, lost to Salmon River, who clearly is really solid.
that conference was brutal. Yeah.
And then ended up coming around on the back end. They took care of business against a Mackey team, and then came up short against a Rockland team that proves again and again to be a really solid team down in Southern Idaho. So Genesee, probably not the outcome you're looking for. But if you're Coeur d'Alene, I think you're thrilled with how the season went.
Yeah, especially getting the full bid. You didn't have to play a play-in match to get into the state tournament. That's a big deal for that group to actually be playing on the floor at state instead of a chance to get there. You're in the house, but you're not necessarily in the party. And now this year they were in the party, and that's, as far as a coach goes, I think that you just show up and do your best and hope that it turns out in your favor. And unfortunately, it ran into 2 really good teams. And if you're Genesee, you're looking at that and you're like, man, there's chances. There was things that we left on the table, going 5 sets against Rockland, and leaving some points on the floor. That, I think that you look at Genesee, that they were oh so close once again to playing in those penultimate matches. But hats off to Rockland getting the 2nd place finish, and Salmon River ended up 3rd. I mean, that just screams about how good that conference was. And I said Horseshoe Bend, it was my favorite to win the championship. Like I said, that week 0. So I'll pat myself on the back because they proved it. They were a really good team. But look at that championship match. It was a 5-setter. I mean, it's everything you could want in a title match there. And even the play-in match to get to the championship went 5 sets. So the Bulldogs, I mean, they had to do it the hard way, playing 5-setters for against Genesee, a 5-setter against Salmon River, and then a 5-setter against Horseshoe Bend. Trying to get there, it's just that's a great showing from that group.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, that wraps up the volleyball season. As always, it's always fun to be a part of it. And if you have any comments, drop them in the chat or reach out to us somehow. We'd love to hear more about your guys' season. All right, well, cross country, Scaggs, we're going to hit on the good ones. Well, I don't know about the good ones, but the high notes in the cross country world. There's lots of stats that we could go over, but we're going to start 6A boys cross country. Coeur d'Alene rolls. They had a final score of 30. The top finishers were 2, 3, 5, 6, 14. It's insane. 62 points ahead of the closest finisher, which was Highland. I think if you're Coeur d'Alene, you are just rolling. You're just rolling.
Yep.
Wyatt Carr got second, Rowan Henry third, Mitchell Wrights got fifth, Wyatt Morgenstern sixth, all of them within 15 seconds of each other. Wyatt Carr was only 3 seconds behind the eventual champ Hiram Tuft. So again, just incredible effort by Coeur d'Alene. I do want to add Scaggs last night as I was going through this. I was looking at all the cross-country results, and I spent a good hour during Gem State game day figuring out, how Coeur d'Alene did, how so-and-so did. And it took me, I went from 6A all the way down to 2A. It took me a solid hour to realize that I was looking at last year's results. There was all these names that I was like, I don't recognize this name. Maybe I'm just not paying attention enough. Finally, I get to it. I'm like, wait, I know this kid graduated. There's no way there. Like, what am I doing? And so I wasted an hour of my life last night where I could have been giving full attention to Gem State game day, going over and memorizing last year's results in cross country. So kind of a disappointing day for me.
I mean, and there's some results too. We can go through 5A. I mean, there's a couple nice finishes from District 1 and 2. But Ryan McClory from Moscow was the top finisher from District 2 and District 1 in 5A, taking 7th in the boys. And then Cora Crawford took 5th, and also another Moscow runner. So nice job from the senior there from Moscow. But I mean, they were well ahead of anybody else from District 1 or 2. Those are the only ones that were even in the top 10. Finishing in 5A. But we go back to Coeur d'Alene, how many years they've won the Team of the Year award at the North Idaho Sports Banquet every spring. And I mean, that group is just they're a juggernaut, and they're ranked in the top 4 in the nation for a reason. I mean, that is a very, very, very good team. And to have the finishes that you do within your group, to get the consistency in the finish, is just a top-notch job. So, and I will give a shout out to Talia Bonneville in 6A from Post Falls. She finished 8th. It was a nice finish for her. And then Olivia May from Coeur d'Alene got 11th. But yeah, we talk a lot about the boys, and that Coeur d'Alene boys team is just a generational group. That it's something that's so uncommon in high school athletics, to have the consistency that those teams do. But you get the great effort where you've got 4 runners within the same program in the top 6. You just don't see that. I mean, they recognize greatness when it's there. And I mean, they absolutely just showed up and showed out and dominated the state meet.
Well, and even a week ago, it was the district tournament. We were going to talk about it, decided not to. Coeur d'Alene obviously won the district championship for 6A for Northern Idaho, and the champion was Mitchell Wrights. He was the district champion at a 15:42. The next 4 runners were all from Coeur d'Alene. It was all the 4 that we'd already mentioned, and they were a second behind him. Like, it wasn't like, there's one clear favorite for Coeur d'Alene. It's like, no, they're all like, if you put them on any other team, one of their best runners. And so it's just incredible. And yeah, Coeur d'Alene brings home another state title. So shout out to them. 4A Scaggs, 4A girls. This is where it got exciting. Annabelle Carter went back-to-back for Coeur d'Alene Charter at a 17:53. She took
Annabelle Carter's a freak. I'm just going to put that out there. But go ahead.
I want to know if Annabelle Carter and Wyatt Carr are related in any way. I mean, I don't know. I'd be curious. Lola Eggleston was 3rd for Timberlake. She had an 18:10, and Vanessa McLaughlin was 4th for Timberlake as well at an 18:26. And those 2 scores there and a couple others, 18th and 20th, was able to bring home the state title for Timberlake girls. That was something, Brandon Bainey and I looked at earlier this year, and we're like, yeah, Timberlake's the favorite. Timberlake's going to do it. And yeah, they did it.
And I think it comes down to it too, is that you look at the overall finishes. It's not necessarily those top kids. Yeah, that's going to get you a lot of points. It's what is the rest of the pack doing? And are you getting anybody that's coming in under 25th? And you look at it, and it's like Emily Wright comes in at 22nd, running a 19:48. And then Malia Miller finishes 20th, running a 19:30. Yeah, basketball player, senior, comes in, runs a 19:36. And that was just a big deal for that group. to get the finishes that they did. And, congrats on the state championship and bringing that home back to Spirit Lake.
Our one lone commenter, our one lone watcher, person watching the North Idaho Prepcast, Sean Kane. It's unbeatable. Yeah, referring to Coeur d'Alene now, how dominant they've been over the last couple years. On the boys' front, Timberlake was able to come in third place. Jonathan Barnhart finished fourth. With a 15:20. Not far behind him was Caleb Royce at a 15:49. So they put together a good effort as well. It was Joshua Yeager. He was in 20th, and Joseph Saturn was in 21st. So again, like you mentioned, I think there was another runner too that was right behind him.
Yeah,
so
Eli Royce,
again,
right there. They all finished together.
Just another, balanced effort from Timberlake, and a third place trophy. Nothing to shame about there.
Not at all.
There wasn't a lot of good results on 3A. I don't want to say good results, but the Lucy Boones of the world, who Sean Kane knows down in Ryrie, just kind of run the world. So
yeah, we got nobody in the top 20 out of the north. So that's
3A is tough. It's Ryrie, North Fremont. Just about everybody from East Idaho placed in 3A. 2A went a little bit
good. 2A looked great.
Was awesome. Yeah, let's look at the girls. Not Kellogg, but Logos was able to finish second with a 77 behind Victory Charter, who put up an absurd 21. Yeah. Top finishers for Logos, Livia Wrench ran an 18:55, and then Livia Longshore, not far behind her, ran a 19:29. Further down the list was Sydney Shears from Prairie. She finished 23rd in her first year running cross country. Emma Dara from Logos also had 20:54. So good efforts from the girls' side. Logos, once again, just putting up really good performances on the cross country side. Boys Scaggs is where it gets interesting. John Henry Crapuchettes. I knew that.
Yeah.
John Henry, first place. He was behind Benjamin Farr just about all year long. It was Benjamin had the lead on him. Well, most of this race, I mean, 2/3 of it, he was ahead of him. And if you read the article in the Lewiston Tribune, they do a great job kind of describing. John Henry talks about it, and it's just an interesting story. How he ends up coming from behind, doesn't listen to his coach, says, "No, I don't want your advice. I want to take it into my own hands." Ends up winning, taking down Benjamin. They've raced a lot. They've ran against each other for years. Benjamin, if you see the photo on Lewiston Tribune, again, highly recommend looking at it. He looks like Steve Prefontaine, if you have any idea who that is as a runner for Oregon back in like the 80s, whatever it was.
70s,
70. He looks exactly like him. He's got the sideburns. He's got the nice stash. Really just portraying Steve Prefontaine. So crazy effort from those two. Manuel Mendez actually finished fourth for Timberline at a 16:13. Yeah, absolutely. And then Maxwell Grocky, not too far behind for Logos at 8th. Finnegan O'Donnell in 9th. A lot, not better effort, but great finishes from the boys in 2A. A couple other finishers from Logos, if you go through it. Benjamin Jones for Troy.
Finnegan O'Donnell from Kamei.
Yeah.
The Irishman.
Do you know that to be true?
I mean, his name's Finnegan and his last name's O'Donnell. I think you could pretty much assume that family is Irish.
Possibly. Shout out to John.
I don't know that for sure, but I mean, if your name's Finnegan O'Donnell, I mean, it's either you're Irish or you're in the mafia or something. I don't know.
Yeah, really good results from Northern Idaho, though, in cross country. There were some record-breaking performances on the girls. I think it's Haley Heimeyer from Rocky. Again, just way above the rest of the pack in 6A girls for her from Rocky. She did really well. There's a lot of good stories in the cross country world. Just in the last week. So shout out cross country. Now you can, get ready for track. And
we will mention state swim. It is this weekend. So next week's show, we'll break down how state swim went. Just so I know that some of these other sports don't feel like they're left out in the dust, but we're just kind of going over the greatest hits of the weekend from state championships. And so Swim, we will break down next week. So I don't want to get any hate mail from the Lake City or Coeur d'Alene folks.
We don't get a lot of hate mail except from Kevin Buckhout if he's listening. It's the only person we get hate mail from.
He's going to message me here in a second and be like, I heard that.
He'll deliver it for us. Well, Scaggs, let's talk some football. Do you have your football helmet sticker? Do you have one for the week?
Yeah. Gosh. Yes. Cooper Miller from Wallace. 100%. I mean, over 600 yards of total offense, 8 touchdowns for the sophomore quarterback for Wallace.
I'm going to steal Brandon's. I'm going to steal Brandon's.
Steal a graphic. 397 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 28 rushes for 224 and 5 TDs. That'll get you a helmet sticker because that is the offensive output of some teams that they didn't have that all year. So in one game against a good Garden Valley team, he put up the offensive numbers that some of the other teams in District 1 and 2 couldn't even get on the entire season.
Yeah, well deserved. And he actually didn't even receive, the Idaho Sports Player of the Game that night.
I know.
It was Hank Larson. I can't believe it.
Yeah, because I don't know what Brandon was thinking, but whatever. So I ripped him last night.
I'm gonna be a homer this week. I'm gonna go Cade Quintal of Prairie. I know he was our player of the game, but I'm gonna bring it up even more. 302, 2 TDs, had 2 rushing touchdowns. Cade, that was probably the best I've seen him play this year. Really comfortable. Just made all the right throws, all the right time. Valley's a lot better than people think. Valley's a good team, and he was super comfortable against them. It was a huge bounce back against, playing Kendrick the week prior. That's a tough match. And I thought he just played really well, composed. And as a junior quarterback, I think you're looking at that as, Coach Hasselstrom excited for what next year is going to come for Cade.
I think you're excited for this week. Let's be honest.
And this week.
Yeah, you get another output like that from your QB. That's going to bode well for the win column.
Absolutely. Let's look at some of the brackets. Let's start at the bottom. We'll go 1A first. Some of the games last week, Scaggs, what's one that caught your eye? I have a feeling you're going to go Wallace, Salmon River.
Just a shootout. Yeah, Wallace and Salmon River. Salmon River is a pretty good team too, and Wallace won the shootout with them at home, and the home cooking was good to them. They're going to get a rematch this week with Genesee. Wallace dropped that game to Genesee earlier in the year. Genesee, I mean, what more do they have to do? They manhandled Timberline last week, got a huge running output from their team, and I think as a team they ran for over 500 yards in the game, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Wallace in that game in a shootout over Salmon River was my game of the week.
Absolutely, I'm with you there. I won't dispute it any longer. Scaggs, I know you're gonna pick Quarter Christ Carey. I'm gonna pick Deary Tri Valley just because that's the game that I'm calling. I'm excited to see how Deary gets revenge against a Tri Valley team that already beat them by 40 this year. Tri Valley's good. Tri Valley's going to run the ball down your throat 50 times a game at least.
They're going to point at the hole and say, "Stop this."
Exactly. Yeah, I've already talked with their coach this week. That's exactly what he told me. They're just going to run the ball and see if somebody can stop them. And Deary stopped the ball well against Genesee 2 weeks ago. I'm just curious to see how well Deary adjusts. I don't know if Deary's going to win that game, but if they can, hang with Tri Valley, get it to halftime where you're close with the team like that, I think you're happy with the result, and you're also, there's a chance you could win the game, and that's all you can ask for. And Tri Valley is a team that, I think can win the state championship. They're a really solid team, and so that's the game that I look at for Deary to try to hang close.
If it's not my game, the Quarter Christ Carey game, I think that one's just going to be fun. Offensively, you could see some fireworks in that ball game. The Genesee Wallace game, I think, is going to be a great football game. Just the rematch. The teams are already familiar with one another. Wallace knows what they need to fix and do better in that game. They gave it up a few times, and that one will also be on IdahoSports.com. That's going to be a fun game to watch. It really will.
I'd be shocked if we see another 22-18 score.
No,
I
that's
think
not
I
going to
think
happen.
I think you're going to see a lot more of that 64-58 game last week. I'd be
Yeah.
shocked if they hold Cooper Miller and all those guys under 20
Those,
points.
yeah, those the underclassmen and the junior receiver. I mean, good grief, the running back's a sophomore, quarterback's a sophomore. There's talent galore that's young on that team. We knew Cooper was good as a freshman last year. He was great. And it's like, can he live up to the expectations? And he's exceeded them, in my opinion, this year. He's been phenomenal at the QB position, leading that offense. And Quarter Christ and Carey, I think, is just going to be if you're a diehard sicko of 8-man football, this is the game for you. Quarter Christ comes in. They've got talent offensively that's, I don't want to say unmatched, but what they're able to do in the passing attack or the running game with John Denke running the ball or Grant Clemens throwing it with Greg Haynes on the outside. There's talent all over the field for that Quarter Christ team on the offensive side. It's going to come down to defense. Who's going to be able to get stops? Because we know Carey can put up points. That's a great team. Their quarterback's really solid too. They bring in a lot of talent with their team coming into this game. There's going to be a lot of fanfare with this one because Quarter Christ getting the 4 seed and being able to host in their second year of existence. It's going to be fun. You got Stockton, Sears, Denke, like Wallace, they get on the comment section. It's going to be an exciting ball game. I mean, it's just going to be a great game between two very, very good clubs, very well coached teams. Carey's just been a machine for how many years? You look back and it's just like the Panthers seem to be in the state championship game every year. Quarter Christ is trying to be the new kid on the block and make a statement here in their second year of existence and represent District 1 well. It's going to be a dandy of a ball game. It really will be.
Yeah, that'd be a game I'd look forward to on Saturday afternoon if you have nothing better to do with your day. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, and don't be surprised to see some Wallace fans there. I mean, they play at Genesee Friday night. There's a Saturday game in the afternoon in Worley on the turf. It's a great facility. I mean, if you don't have anything going around North Idaho, that's the game to be at in North Idaho on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, in the comments once again, Wallace Minor Athletics, 2 of the top 8-man running backs in the state. I agree, and people, everyone knows Stockton Sears, but not everyone knows John Denke yet, and that could change. In a week. I mean,
really quickly.
That could easily that could change very
dynamic,
quickly.
Yeah, very dynamic athlete.
All right, 2A Scaggs. All kinds of White Pine League play here, every single game. But what's a game last week that stuck out to you on a performance?
I'll let you go because you had the game I want to pick. I want
Fair.
your thoughts on that. I want your thoughts on that Prairie Valley game because Valley, I think, was very underrated. That was a team I looked at. I'm like, they could beat Prairie, and Valley, if they beat Prairie, jumping in line, that's a team that can knock off Grace. And so that matchup was very intriguing on what was going to happen in the next round and how things shook out. Prairie offensively looked really good in the first half. They really did. And I think they looked good all game, but it was the defense kind of a bend but don't break situation. But at least I want your thoughts there because there's a lot you could talk about, and you can look at the gaudy numbers that Cammy I put up and blown up 86 in a first round game on Glens Ferry. Glens Ferry is one of those teams. I'm like, did they even have a chance? I don't know. But they were in the playoffs, and I don't want to poo-poo on them too much. But that was just something that I saw in that first round. And I'm like, okay, like for second round matchup, you start looking and prognosticating. Like, can we see an all White Pine semifinal?
Well, and let's be honest, all the pressure's on Prairie to make that happen. I think the other 2 teams are definitely favored. The other 3 teams are favored to get there. I'll speak on the Prairie front. I think they had a really good start to the game. Just, there was no defense being played in the first 5-10 minutes of that game. It was, I think it was 22-8 with 8 minutes left in the first quarter. Like there was a ton of scoring. It was just ridiculous. Not a lot of defense was being played. And like I said, Cade Quintal was super comfortable. The O-line, the O-line's very undersized. They did a really good job keeping him upright. They really did a good job containing Thomas Vargas, who's a really solid running back for Valley, and just made them work for every single yard. Like later in the second half, Valley had to work a little harder. Valley was pulling out these fake double reverse passes to get a receiver open across the middle of the field. It just wasn't as easy. And I thought Prairie's defense just played well, especially when they had to. There was a play at the end of the game that, Brant Jones, the quarterback for Valley, he got hurt with 30 seconds left. And in steps this freshman quarterback or sophomore quarterback who had no reps at all. And I mean, if Brant Jones doesn't get hurt, I'm thinking, oh man, Prairie might lose. Prairie might blow a 25, 26 point lead. And right when it happens, the defense makes a huge sack the play prior against Brant Jones and just puts Prairie in a good spot to win. So they get the win. I was impressed with them. They play this Grace team, and I'll keep on Prairie. They play Grace. And Sean Kane knows this too, because Sean was asking me, for some nuggets on Prairie. I don't think Prairie's ever won at the ICCU Dome, ever. I can actually state that pretty confidently. Formerly the Holt Arena, Prairie's never won. So that's a challenge in itself, just traveling down there, playing a team like Grace, a team you played last year. How's that going to look? You know them well. They're solid. But I think Prairie's going to have a tough draw. It's a team that, I talked with, I think it was the Tri-Valley coach, like Tyler Wagner. They just do a lot of weird things. Grace is not your typical team. They're really strong. They're really physical, and they're going to run the ball down your throat, and you have to figure out how to stop it. And they have some really athletic dudes. So I think that's the absolute number one game of the week. And we'll decide if Kendrick and you see Prairie and Kendrick in the second round.
I think everybody wants to favor the White Pine, but I mean, you look at these and they just almost appear as trap games, in my opinion. You got Kamiah having the 2 seed having to go on the road to Raft River, just because of like conference championships, I guess, that the champion gets to host in the quarterfinal. I don't know how that necessarily shook out this year with the ranking. I thought they did away with that rule, but no, it's still there. So Kamiah being the upper seed having to hit the road, that's a big deal in my opinion. I think it's bigger than what people think. That's a long trip from Kamiah because there's nowhere easy in the state of Idaho to get to from Kamiah other than Orfino. So you're talking about heading up the hill somewhere, but they're hitting the road big time this week. And then the Logos Hagerman game to me looks like a trap game too. That Logos, if they think they're going to coast into the semifinals, I think they're going to be sorely mistaken. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. But a good slate of games for sure.
Yeah, you look at Raft River, no one really knows what to think of Raft River. It's a team that beat Hagerman. It's a team that though lost to Valley. You're like, okay, that's kind of strange. But they're a team that lost to Grace by 14 at the beginning of the year. Raft River's hard to read, and I'd be curious to see how Kamiah does against them.
I hate to do this in the middle of a prepcast, but my son's school is calling me.
All right, Scaggs, take it. Let's do it live on air.
No, I'll mute myself real quick.
All right, let's read some comments in the chat. Sean, Sears is unreal. Oh, I needed to know. Talking about Prairie and not ever winning down south. Both teams extremely well coached. Agree with you there. Expect a battle. Also agree. Bring me. I need... And then special teams will be important. Prairie has time on the bus to go over game, taking advantage of all their time together. Well, I'm curious how that will work, of how that's a huge discussion from Prairie and Kamiah of what does that schedule look like? A lot of times as coaches, that's honestly the biggest thing that you have to worry about. And so that's a real challenge. For Logos, it's a team that you took care of business against Hagerman at the beginning of the year, 34-8. You had 10 sacks. If you can't get the same pressure against Wyatt Mavenkamp, it's going to be a tough game for them this year. So I'm not entirely sure. It's just a tough draw for a Logos team against somebody they've already played this year. All right, we'll keep rolling through. Scaggs is going to give us an update on how his school is doing. In 3A, Priest River has this huge game against Aberdeen. Aberdeen was able to coast against a Melba squad last week, a team that, Grangeville fans think they should be in over Melba. The story goes on. Aberdeen, though, won big, and now they can make the road all the way up to Priest River, and against a team that's finally healthy. You're going to see just a really exciting group of Priest River fans, Priest River coaches, and players, and they're going to be ready to play on their home turf. One of the first times they've had a playoff game at home. It might be one of the very first. And that's going to be just interesting to see how that environment is. I know Brandon Baney's excited for that matchup there because that's a huge game for Priest River and how well they can match up against an Aberdeen team that's just kind of staying under the radar. Nobody really knows how good Aberdeen is. And I mean, Scaggs, what do you think? You doing all right? Well, what do you think of Priest River?
We're good. So yeah, thanks for letting me jump out real quick. Sometimes dad duty calls. So Priest River, they're going to be at full strength this week. They're going to have to get creative. They cannot get tunnel vision to have a chance against this Aberdeen team. If they show up full strength and they play like they did against Grangeville, where they were firing at all cylinders and they're able to move the ball in the passing game, I think Matthew's arm is going to come in to be crucial in this ball game. If they're going to lean on Kapranko to run the ball and just hope that he's going to get 4 yards a carry plus and break a couple, and then throw a few in with like Goins and with Fagert and hope that that's going to be enough, I don't think that is. They're going to have Matthews be a factor at quarterback with his arm and with his legs if they go spread, and be able to get him in space and maybe find some alleys. Defensively, they're going to expect a heavy dose of run. I mean, your run defense is going to have their ears pinned back. One thing about Priest River I'll give them, they got a great linebacking group. They do. They're going to have to be on their A game. They cannot miss tackles. They're going to have to be able to make solo tackles in space to give themselves a chance, because if they miss one and let those backs from Aberdeen get in the back, back into that defense and open field, it's going to be a long game. Priest River's got a chance, but they're going to have to clean things up that we've seen down the stretch. They haven't looked necessarily that great. They don't look like they did early in the season. So, if they can manage things and play Aberdeen like they played Bonners Ferry, kind of run heavy offense too, and they did a decent enough job to keep themselves close. This game could be close. It could, but it's going to be a team effort. I mean, pure 100%, 11 men playing 100% the entire time.
Yep, and I agree. Those two games you bring up, Grangeville and Priest River, with the beginning of the year. So if you can see that team, I think Priest River has a chance. If it's somewhat what we've seen the last couple of weeks, I think they're going to have a tough role against an Aberdeen team that's trying to make a run into the.
Because Aberdeen's not going to give you possessions. They're going to control it with their offense, and you're going to get 5-6 touches throughout the game. Maybe. What are you going to be able to do with them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a challenge, but you have the advantage of travel. I think that is a huge advantage that you have with everybody having to come to North Idaho to see you. All right, 4A Scaggs. There's no one left from Northern Idaho to chat about, but Bonners Ferry had a valiant effort against American Falls. Keenan Moss tried to put the team on his back, came up short, and shout out to Bonners Ferry on a heck of a season.
Yep.
And I'm excited to see what next year brings for this group.
I think, the seeding wasn't favorable to the Badgers. I think that they could have had probably I don't want to say an easier road, because I think 4A is just deep as all get out. I think there's a lot of really good teams there. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking back as coach and going, hey, did we do well in this area, do well in this area? They overcame a lot of adversity throughout the season, and some real bright spots, and not just Keenan Moss, but there was other guys that got themselves involved, like Hyatt and some of the other dudes on that team that played really well. In a couple weeks we'll be releasing our all North Idaho team. Expect to see quite a few Bonners Ferry Badgers on that group, just because, especially up front, the offensive line was a little bit of an unsung hero for that team this year. I think that they exceeded expectations. There was a lot of question marks around that group going into the year. And what they were able to do with the run game this year, I mean, the Hogs up front, if it wasn't without them, Keenan didn't have the season that he had, where he was, one of the top backs in the state of Idaho.
Nope, and that's been acknowledged by Keenan, by everybody. That O line deserves credit. So credit they are earned
And
because
they played a really tough team. I mean, that American Falls team is really good, and they did a good job. They did close to what they needed to do to win that game, to be in it. They just needed a little bit more production beyond just Keenan and not getting. I mean, holding pretty prolific offense, and Greg is a stud at QB for American Falls, and limiting him from just shorting out the scoreboard like he's done against some teams this year. It was a valiant effort from that Bonners Ferry team on the road in a tough, hostile environment.
yeah, I mean, I did pick Kimberly to win this 4A state title. I won't be too shocked if American Falls maybe pulls an upset this week. Who knows? That could be a tough draw and shows a little bit
They'll have to
better.
face my pick, Fruitland.
Shows some tough competition though for Bonners Ferry, just what they actually had to face.
Yeah.
All right, Scaggs 5A, the best bracket we got in the world. We got two big games. Pick one of them.
Big games.
Yeah, from North Idaho. The two teams left from North Idaho. 2 of 3.
So I got to pick one of the two North Idaho games, or just games in general. I mean, I did Gem State game day, so we'll let that rest. But I'll say this: I'll talk about last week's game, the Lewiston game that I was on the call for with Lakeland. That was it. I mean, why not go overtime? You've done everything else. You had a tiebreaker. You had a wackadoodle finish to your regular season finale between those two teams. Of course, it had to go to OT, and of course, it had to be settled by a kicker because we had the 2-point conversion for Lewiston to win the tiebreak. But I'm so done with the 8 auto bid getting the automatic seed in the top 8. Like, that needs to go away like the dodo. That has to be. Lewiston should have been placing a different opponent. I think that they, give that team a game. Lakeland getting a better seed line, getting a different opponent. Those three teams up north deserved to have a little bit different shake in this bracket. I will say this though: Lakeland is jacked to be playing Hillcrest, and people are like, "Why would you want to play the number 1 team in 5A?" They took them to the ropes last year, and that's a game that they look at that they let go. They had the lead, like 80% of that game, they were leading Hillcrest, and they let Hillcrest come back in, and Tyson Sweetwood took over and ended up leading Hillcrest to a state championship. Lakeland's got some tricks up their sleeve. I mean, I think that they're ready to pull some punches and take Hillcrest's best shot. That's what they want. They want to play the best teams. They're gonna have to play them in the second round. But if they're going to want to be, one of those semifinal or championship teams and get there, you're going to have to play the top dog at some point. And so, am I calling for a Lakeland upset? Not necessarily, but do I think that they're going to give Hillcrest an absolutely heck of a ball game and everything they can handle? Absolutely. Do I think Lakeland has a chance of pulling an upset? I do. I think that there's enough talent on that roster, especially with as consistent of an offensive line that they have and the way they play defense. That's going to keep you in ball games. I don't care who you're playing, and you can poo-poo on their weak schedule all you want. That's still a good ball club. So that's my thoughts on Lakeland.
The running game translates late into the playoffs, no matter
Heck
how,
yeah.
no matter what kind of team you are. And
And I will say this: Peyton Hillman's consistency and not, if he doesn't turn the ball over, continues to give them a chance. I mean, I love Peyton's temperament. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. He's pretty even keeled. That's the type of leader you want going into a big playoff game against the number 1 team in the state. If I'm Lakeland, I'm doubling down on that one. I'm like, dude, we got to match his energy to where he just wants to game. And, you've got guys in that roster like Cash Lund. You got Jace Taylor at corner. You got Siler Bauer on the other side. Guys that are playing better as the season's going on. This is a team I'm looking at if I'm Hillcrest going, man, I don't want to overcommit anything and think, start making reservations for state again. Lakeland's going to give them everything they can handle. I really do see that being a closer game, like a 1-2 score game, either direction.
Yeah. And then on the Skyline Sandpoint front, it really comes down to, can you slow down Zion Crockett of Skyline? If you can do that, you have a chance.
I'll say this about Crockett. He's the best pure athlete in Idaho. Like, you talk about speed, he brings it. Athleticism, he's there. Scoring ability, big play ability, he's there. can they figure it out around him on offense is going to be the question. If Sandpoint can score on their possessions, and they don't have to get touchdowns every time, if they can use Yarborough's leg, I mean, I think that's going to be the kind of ace up their sleeve. Skyline's going to have their hands full if Sandpoint's offense is clicking.
Yep, I agree. Sandpoint's offense is lethal if it's rolling, and they have some of the best athletes in the entire state. Like you mentioned last night, Maverick Gomez, the 200-meter champ, he's a stud. I think there's a lot of optimism from Sandpoint heading down to Skyline, heading down to Southern Idaho for the tenth time.
This is the thing that
like.
people I think overlook is that special teams could win this game for Sandpoint. And not just the kicking game where they get PATs and field goals. I'm talking in the return game. If they can pull a couple big returns, I mean that's going to be the shot in the arm for the Bulldogs. They can feed off that energy. They're going to have to jump out guns blazing right off the bat. And if they can get a touchdown up, or you just match scores with Skyline, I mean, I don't know if Skyline's offense can persist in a shootout necessarily like that. They really rely on their defense, which is phenomenal. They have a great defense. How are they going to be able to bottle up if they focus on Gomez? Can Yarborough get his yards? Or if they focus on Yarborough, is Gomez going to be able to get behind the defense in the one-on-one? That's where the game's going to be won and lost.
Well, then you also have to run the ball with Jensen Sheets too. That's a big part of it, and keep it, a two-dimensional game. I think
keep them
that's
honest.
really
Absolutely.
gives you a shot. All right, in the chat, Tina Hillman, always go Hawks. I hope Tina is cooking up some sort of snacks for all those boys that have to hop on the bus ride down south. That's a tough ask, It's hard to travel. One of the first time Lakeland's traveled this year. That's a real, not a question mark, but that's always something you have to keep into consideration of you having to travel down south and hop on a bus for 8 or 9 hours.
And the bigger ones, more than just down south, it's back, to the eastern part of the state. I mean, that's a trip. And, weather became a factor last year. They had the snowstorm in the second half of that game. And, things started to unravel towards the end of it for Lakeland. But, I mean, I like this Lakeland group. They match. I love the intensity because they match Coach Schroeder's intensity. Like on game day, you just don't talk to the guy. Like you just leave him alone. Like don't say anything because you're not going to get much out of him anyways. But yeah, I had a chance to talk to Tina and her husband in the parking lot before the Lewiston matchup, and just getting to know their son a little bit better. Like the temperament thing was the cool thing to learn because you see things from the booth and you have an assumption. And I'm like, is he really that way? And they're like, oh yeah, 100%. He's like, he doesn't show emotion. Like he could go win the Super Bowl and the kid's going to just like sit there and be like, okay, cool. Like, so yeah, it was kind of neat to just get to know, some of the families around the kids and you follow a team so much throughout the year and doing a number of their games. It's a cool group. And I, hats off. The IEL, I think is going to represent themselves well, win or lose. I think that they're going to be competitive in both of these games. The seed line is going to be deceptive because both of those teams are top 8 teams in the state in the Max Preps rankings.
Yeah. In the chat, you know it. We've got 40 plus snack bags ready to go. Breakfast burritos on the menu for the morning. Absolutely.
Let's go.
That's what I want. You guys should make a stop down in Central Idaho. I'll take you up on some breakfast burritos. I'd love to be a part of that. All right, Scaggs, last game of the day, 6A. We've talked all week about, and even last week, we talked all week about, oh man, Matt Pancari, he's back up on, in Coeur d'Alene. How's he going to do it? Is he going to be the team to take down Coeur d'Alene? I feel like we haven't talked about this enough. How does Coeur d'Alene beat Madison? What does Coeur d'Alene need to do?
They're going to have to match body. I don't know how to explain this well, but Madison's offensive line is very good. So that they're going to have to be able to, the defense is going to have to be able to keep the linemen from getting to the second level, keep those linebackers clean. If they get Ben Murray back this week, I haven't heard yet if he's going to be playing or not Friday night. That's a huge shot in the arm for that defense because that linebacking crew, when they are at full strength, is one of the best in 6A. I mean, those guys are just nothing but tackle machines. If they can bottle up Madison's offense and kind of keep them discombobulated like Boise did last week, it's going to bode well for Coeur d'Alene offensively. Coeur d'Alene's going to have to get the big play. They're going to get, one of the receivers back. I think Lindquist is coming back this week. That should be huge to get another weapon out there for Tanner Stern at quarterback. I think the question is, can you keep Madison honest enough on the defensive side of the ball with the passing game to keep them from packing, 8-9 in the box to shut down Tanner's running ability at QB? That's going to be an interesting one. They're going to have to get creative with some trick plays. I really see if they dial up the pressure and start to bring the blitz package, expect to see some of those quick screens. Seeing some of the guys contribute necessarily they're on defense at linebacker. They come over on offense and they play in the so that'll be, Coeur d'Alene's going to have to bring it. They're going to have to play mistake-free football. I think it's going to be one of the better games in 6A this week. There's some real dandies though too. So I think it could be a low-scoring game. I mean, it's like 17-14 type game.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if Coeur d'Alene can keep, Tanner Stern has to run the ball to be effective. He is a very effective runner. But if you're able to just keep Madison guessing, right? Not allowing them to stack the box is huge for Coeur d'Alene. Just giving him one less guy to have to worry about. And just, make one big play. And I think you have a chance. I think you're spot on. I think Coeur d'Alene's and it's, that's been the theme all week for all, this game for East River, 2A. It's not easy to come up to Coeur d'Alene. Coeur d'Alene doesn't lose on their home turf
very often. I mean, it happened last year with a good Eagle team, but that was a special group too. But yeah, I mean, losing Caden Simmons, taking that dynamic passing attack ability from Coeur d'Alene away and forcing Stern to be a balanced passer runner and choose one or the other. The one thing I will say about Tanner is if you want to talk about attributes as a quarterback, he's got it all. Like he's got the prototypical, he's, big body. He's got a howitzer of an arm. He's pretty apt to runner. He's a really good athlete. This is a game that, if you're going to have a coming out party to make your name known for next year, and this year and, years to come, like this is the game where they're going to need Tanner to be the stud that everybody expects.
Yeah. Last one in the chat, Sam Buffington. I was just thinking about Sam. Sorry I'm late. We even ran 10 minutes late just for you. All right. Okay, last thing, Scaggs. We have a lot of games this week, a lot of games that you and I are even covering, 5 total. You'll be at Coeur d'Alene for the big game against Madison with Brian Hall, right? That will be audio only. And then on Saturday, you will be down in Worley, right? To watch Coeur Christ and Carey. So that'll be fun to see. I will be at Old Bengal Field with Mr. Tim Silflo as we watch Notice and Kendrick, Tri-Valley, and Deary, as well as Logos and Hagerman. So there's a fun slate of games on in North Idaho. Brandon Bainey's going to have a couple games. Genesee, Wallace. There's a lot of things.
Yeah, Priest River and Aberdeen will be on too. So
Yep. Brandon has a busy week traveling, that's for sure. Well, yeah, I agree. I've been blessed. I've been having to travel a lot. All right, last comment, Sam Buffington. Looking forward to doing the Coeur Christ game with you, Scaggs.
Yeah, looking forward to have him running the camera and the production side of things. So, no, that's going to be a fun game and a shootout. Like that one's going to be fun. I mean, we hope for a great showing from the North teams, and we're sure proud of all the teams that we've gotten District 1 and 2 this year and what they've been able to show. And win or loss, they've all done it with class. And I would expect nothing less this weekend, and looking forward to hopefully some home cooking next weekend in the semis with a whole lot of teams playing for, trophies. That's going to be a big deal to see coming out of this weekend. But best of luck to everyone. Safe travels for everyone going around the state. The weather's kind of wackadoodle. So anybody heading to East Idaho, drive safe. Those Lakeland fans going down to IF and or I should say to Ammon technically, but whatever. It's East Idaho. And,
it all blends.
Yeah, it all blends. And the Cami folks going down south too and everything else. It's just going to be, there's people going everywhere. So safe travels to everyone out there.
Absolutely. Well, that'll be it for us on the North Idaho Prepcast. As for Ryan Scaggs, I'm Hayden Uhlenkott. We will see you next week on IdahoSports.com.